Steve Galooly, who has written this wonderful poem. We're a day late for it, but I'm going to read it as he wrote it. It is entitled, dun, da, 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 'Twas the night before Arbor Day. 'Twas the night before Arbor Day, and all through the town, all the trees were happy, none with a frown. All the shade trees were starting to sprout. Their buds and their flowers were starting to come out. New holes are being dug on rights of way all around, soon to have trees snugly dug into the ground. When what was to his wondering eyes should appear, it's a white bucket truck and someone in safety gear. On maple trees, on oaks, on yellowwood, on locust, our township tree professional shouted as he handled trees small and robust. Off comes the deadwood. In goes the new planting, making Franklin greener, all straight with no slanting. He made quick work of hazard trees, and gone was dead wood, cleaning up sawdust, adding tree guards and gators, he will explain, as he should. Then, just as fast as he came, he departed with a cloud of dust in that beautiful new truck, without even a spot of rust. See you next year when we plant another tree. Water these well and keep them mulch volcano free. Yay, Mr. Steve Galooly.
You did that well.
Why, thank you. I had the words to play with. Steve Galooly, tell us who you are in the Shade Tree Commission, why today, Arbor Day, is a special day in Franklin Township, and I know that there are trees going to be distributed tomorrow, and we do, before any further ado, Franklin, anyone who wants to tell us exactly what this tree is that we're standing in front of. We've been discussing the possibilities. It is not a shade tree.
It's an ornamental. It's an ornamental tree. So I plead the fifth on that one.
Okay.
So I'm Steve Galooly. I'm the chair of our Franklin Township Shade Tree Commission. The commission is responsible for all the trees on township property. So we take care of planting new trees and taking care of the trees that are there in partnership with the DPW, Environmental Commission, and Open Space. And what we're doing today, we're here because it's Arbor Day. Arbor Day since 1872 has been the day we celebrate the planting of trees and the care of trees in our communities. And here in Franklin, we have a commitment to try to increase the tree cover. It's called the canopy of Franklin Township from where it is now to almost 42%. So we're at about 38%, 37% now. We want to get that up 5 points. That's a lot of trees. So we have to replace the trees that are dying and add even more. And the places we tend to add trees, you may have noticed, we planted about 40 new trees along JFK Boulevard in the fall. We planted 30 along Ridings Parkway down in the southern end of the township also in the fall. And coming this spring, fingers crossed that everything works out, we're going to plant over 150 new trees on Hamilton Street. So we're going to keep greening the township, adding trees to where there's too much pavement, more hardscape they call it, so that we can add greenery and cool down those heat islands. We're going to add more trees to our parks. We're working with the Board of Education to see if we can add trees to some of the schoolyards. It's complicated to get the maintenance and all that for all of these trees worked out. But again, we have really strong partnerships with the township, with the DPW, and with the Board of Education. So hopefully you'll see more trees in the future. And we are having our annual tree sale this year. It is back after about a 5-year hiatus. We weren't able to run it during COVID, like a lot of things. And then we had a hard time getting trees. The trees we're distributing, we don't have a ton of them this year, but and it's smaller than we did in the past. We had to order these trees a year in advance just to get them, which is very unusual. And they're much more expensive. The price went up about 30% year over year. So, but we have them. We're going to be distributing. If you want a tree, we still have a few left. Go to the Shade Tree website, franklintownshipnj.org. And the Shade Tree, you'll see a link there under commissions for the Shade Tree Commission. There's a page for the tree sale. There's an order form and all that good stuff. You can order one. We're handing them out tomorrow, though, so hurry. Hurry up before they're gone. And tomorrow morning, we'll be distributing the trees over at the Township Garage on Churchill Avenue. At the same time, actually, the county's going to be distributing trees over in Colonial Park. They have a grant-funded tree distribution. Our trees are about 5 feet tall. The counties are about 1 foot tall. The little sprouts. Little different, right. But still, a tree's a tree. So if you want to add coverage to your lawn, if you want to add shade, if you want to add greenery, these are great opportunities at a lower cost than you'll find at most of the big outlets like Home Depot or Lowe's. Their trees are a little more expensive because they have to have the retail markups. We're giving them at cost. And ours come with a tree bark guard. So it's a little plastic cylinder that goes around the bark of your tree to protect it from deer. So if you have deer in your yard, these will keep them from rubbing on your tree and killing the tree before it gets going.
There's nothing you haven't thought of.
they've done this before. I am relatively new to the Shade Tree Commission. I've only been on for a few years. There are commission members who've been on for 10 and 15 years that have been doing this a long time. So I plead the fifth on that one as well. These guys correct me whenever I go off track. But it's a really dedicated group. It's a nice group of people that want to make sure that Franklin Township stays green. And as you can imagine, every time a new house or a new warehouse or a new commercial building or even paving project happens, some trees have to be cut down. Some trees get old and sick and have to be removed. You may have seen our township tree maintenance crews out on Canal Road, Copper Mine Road, doing maintenance on the branches that overhang those roads. The town has to make sure that everything's safe with all of those as well. So every time they're down there and every time they see a tree that has died and they have to take it down, we're thinking about replacing it with a new tree that's smaller, a little bit more climate adapted. The trees we plant now are more adapted for the local area. We try to plant non-invasive native trees that come from this area of the country, and we try to plant ones that are going to hold up to hotter temperatures and drier climates in the future. Because again, it's also like a little bit of a weird thing to think about. We're planting trees that are going to be there for 40 and 50 years. Right. So we want to think about what it's going to be like down the road.
Well, it's one thing that, I mean, if you look around where we're standing right now, it's so beautifully green in Franklin. I mean, especially this time of year, the grass is blooming. Wrong word, but the grass is, and the bushes are up, and you can see flowers. And why is it necessary to add more trees? Is there an environmental protection that trees afford our community?
That's a great question. A single tree absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and turns it into energy. So that's what trees eat, basically, if you oversimplify it. By doing that, they sequester tons and tons of carbon because of the carbon dioxide. A single tree, on average, tends to sequester about $20,000 worth of carbon credits every year. So if you look at long-term climate, if you look at long-term CO2 in the atmosphere, trees are a great way to pull the CO2 out of the atmosphere. They use it and then sequester it in their bark and in their leaves. So it does get released when those leaves fall on the ground. Yes, for the scientists out there, that's true. When the leaves decay, some of that is given back in the form of structural carbon and all that good stuff. And all the biological scientists out there are correcting me. They're emailing in right now to correct all of that science that I got wrong. I'm a computer scientist, not a biologist. But the thing about a tree is, not only does it pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and release oxygen, which is great. Number two, its root structure will stabilize the ground around it. So it's great for stormwater runoff control. It's great for erosion control. Its leaves, if you think about it, if you plant a tree next to a home or near a business in the summertime, especially if it's a deciduous tree, in the summertime when it's hot, the tree provides shade, so the building doesn't need as much energy to cool itself. But in the winter, when those leaves come off, the sun will then warm the building, so it doesn't need as much energy to heat itself. So you can use trees strategically planted to try to reduce the energy consumption of a building. So they consume carbon dioxide, they stabilize the soil, they look nice, they provide shade, they reduce energy consumption, and all of that for $100 that will last for 50 years. It's hard to beat that bargain.
Wow. Is there a limit
to the number of trees in the town? Or
no, that purchasable tomorrow.
We wanted one per address, but we do have a few extras. So we have a couple of people who've already bought trees. We've offered them to have a couple extras, but if you want to get one, first come, first serve. So don't show up tomorrow. Please email us. Go on the website, fill out a form. We need to make sure you're a township resident before we hand out the trees tomorrow. But we want them all to go. We want them all in the ground. And the other challenge with trees like this is they have to go in the ground this weekend because, as you said, it's warm, it's green, and the trees are waking up from their winter slumber. What happens biologically is the trees start doing their chemistry and they start bringing up the energy from their roots and start making leaves. Once they start, they need water and they need sunshine. And if you leave them out not in the ground, they'll die. They'll die very quickly. So it's amazing to see a big tree, like 5-foot tall tree, that's that fragile. But once you get them in the ground, you water them, they'll last for 50 years.
Well, you're disrupting their root structure. You're taking them from one place and putting them someplace else.
That's right.
To acclimatize themselves is a natural suffering. That they say, oh my God, now where am I? What do I do now? And they wait to be cared for. Now, you mentioned before deciduous trees. I know that those are the leaves falling. They are the non-evergreens. Now, the trees that are available tomorrow, are these going to be the non-evergreen deciduous as well as evergreens? And is there a difference in terms of planting and care and what the environment benefits from either species?
That's a great question. Yes, all the trees that we're doing this year are deciduous. We have a swamp white oak, which, contrary to what you're thinking, it doesn't grow in the swamp, but it is very happy in wet climates. So that's why we're using that in some of the areas of the town that have wetter ground area. And it's a beautiful oak tree with the bright red leaves in the fall.
Nice.
We have a Halka locust, which is a locust tree that has large oval leaves, also bright yellow in the fall, beautiful. And the third tree we have is called an American yellowwood, and that one again, very yellow leaves in the fall, very pretty tree. All of them are native to this area of the country. All of them are very hardy and robust. All of them are nursery grown and cared for, and they're all bare root, which means they don't. You may have seen at nurseries where they come in a bucket with dirt around the roots. These come with no dirt around them at all.
Wow.
So that means, so what you get with a tree like that is they're a little bit stronger. They plant more easily because you just have to dig a hole and put them in and kind of get them all set. And they're a little more robust. So we like to use the bare root trees. The commission has been selling those for, I think, 15 years or more. And I have a few in my yard. That's how I learned, I met the members of the Shade Tree Commission, was coming over to buy a tree and plant them in the yard. So they're great. They're a great way to add greenery to your yard. Very inexpensive way to get a really high quality tree. And these are tall. These are 4 to 5 feet tall already. So they're ready to go. And they'll look beautiful in your yard all summer long. The challenge to planting, again, this time of year, is you got to put them in the ground quickly. And you got to water every week. Yep.
Wow. Every week? How much water? How much would you, let's say you have a sprinkler system, or you're out there and you would like to sprinkle it yourself. How much time do you need in order to achieve the right quantity?
I think the goal, and again, my experts out there are probably going to email in right away, but I think it's about a gallon per week per inch of tree trunk. So these trees are going to be about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, so about 2 gallons a week to get them started. So when they go in the ground, you wet them immediately, and then you wet them the next day. There's a whole guide that comes with the trees. And then every week you give, with a garden hose on medium, that would be maybe 5-10 minutes. Just soak the ground around the tree, give it a good start. That gets the soil re-moisturized and gets it around those roots, so the roots are in contact with moisture, and then the tree will blossom. It'll do great. And again, the big thing with trees is it's the first 1 or 2 years. After the first 2 years, the tree will establish its own root system. It'll get used to the soil around it, and it's off and running. You don't really have to water it except in extreme droughts.
Are there any things that you should look for that tells you, this tree isn't really adapting all that well, and what could be something to remediate it?
Exactly, absolutely. The first thing you'll notice is the tree doesn't put out leaves or doesn't put out buds in the spring. And the way you can tell if your tree or any shrub is alive or not is you go to those little branches at the end, those little thin branches, and scrape it with your thumbnail. If it's green underneath the bark, it's still good. It's okay. It's just dormant. It may be quite, like this time of year, we're having these very cold nights, very warm days. Some trees may be slower to get going than other ones. That's fine. But if you scrape it and it's brown underneath and it snaps off dry, then your tree is no longer growing. So the trees all grow at the edges. Almost all trees grow at the edges. They grow up and out. So if the up and out edges are brown and dry and break off in your hand, your tree's in trouble. So there's a couple things you can do. You would call a certified tree expert or an arborist. Just look on the internet, you can find one, or you can call the agriculture extensions at Rutgers or up in Somerville, and they'll come down and help you look at your trees and figure out what's going on.
Or you can hope that Steve Galuli might be available.
I'm not the tree expert. We have much smarter people on our commission than me.
It certainly sounds like you know a little bit about trees.
It's actually kind of cool. I mean, I joined the commission because I got concerned about loss of trees in the neighborhood where I live, and the members of the commission explained what the commission really does. The commission is not like the tree police. We don't go out and enforce building and zoning and all those kind of codes. We are just responsible for the trees in the town and that are on town property, and making sure the town has administrative plans for maintaining them. We have to do what's called a community forestry management plan. We do some work with the Arbor Day Foundation. That's the Arbor Day Foundation. This is our annual proclamation that we do for Arbor Day as part of our Tree City USA commitments with them to spend a certain amount of time and energy on our tree maintenance and all those kind of things. So that's what our commission does. So it's not that exciting. We don't go out, we're not like the ASPCA and go out and rescue trees that are being abused or anything like that. But we do work very closely with the engineering department, with DPW, and with zoning and planning, so that when a new development is going into town, we talk to those boards and those developers about the types of trees that we recommend for this area. Those lists have all been vetted by the state foresters and the county foresters, so that we can make sure that they're putting a good tree in a good location. We also try to educate people, for example, not to plant a very, very tall growing oak tree right underneath the electric wires in front of their house, because then it's just a matter of time before that tree gets too close to the wires. Well, what'll really happen is the electric utilities are very careful about maintaining their lines. They'll come out and cut your tree, and because they have the right to protect their equipment.
Understood.
So if you ever drive down a road and you see a tree that comes up and looks nice and it suddenly has a big valley in the middle of the tree
Right,
where the
that's
wires
what's
go through,
happened, of
that's
course.
the wrong tree. They should never have planted a tree that big under those wires because the wires need to be protected. So we help people recognize that you can plant a shorter type of tree that won't grow to 30 feet tall if you need to put one in that area. And we have recommendations. We have a list of all the recommended trees on our website with their heights when they get mature. So it's really kind of cool. So if you think ahead a little bit, again, remember, we're planning for 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road.
That's right.
You can plant, we call it right tree, right place. So if you put the correct kind of tree in the right location, you'll have a beautiful landscape and it won't interfere with utilities. You also have to watch out, not so much in our town, but in other areas, you don't plant large trees like these behind us on top of things like underground wires, underground gas pipelines, and all that kind of stuff. But we don't have as much of that underground stuff in Franklin. You always call 811 before you dig.
And that's true of the average homeowner as well.
Yep, absolutely. Anytime you're going to dig anywhere near, except if it's in your own personal property where you know where everything is. And even then, I live in an area of town where we have underground utilities. I don't know exactly where every wire and everything is. You call 811, they come out and mark it all for you so you know that you're not going to hit something and get a surprise. And nobody wants a surprise like that.
No, we don't want a surprise like that. The trees don't want to be surprised like
Trees
that.
don't like surprises, yeah.
No. When you mentioned native trees, and those are going to be the trees that you're giving away tomorrow, or that you're fulfilling the orders of tomorrow. And what would those be, so that people know if they happen to miss tomorrow, or they haven't ordered a tree in time, that it's a wise advice that a native tree is going to thrive better because the soil is indigenous to our area. So the tree then is easier acclimatizing to it.
Right, absolutely. So the native trees are the types of trees that have always been in this area of the country in this climate. So you're right, they're better acclimatized, they're better for this type of soil, they're better for this kind of moisture and everything that we have in this part of the country. What you can also buy are trees that are called invasives, and those are trees that grow fast. Some of them have beautiful flowers. And the problem with invasive trees is that they grow fast and they have lots of flowers. So what that does is it tends to take over the landscape. If you ever drive past an old open field, and you'll see some of this, for example, on South Middlewest Road, you'll look in this time of year, you'll look over to those old fields of grasslands, and you see lots of white flowering trees. And at first you might think that's beautiful. But if they're Callery pears or Bradford pears, those are flowering fruit trees that spread very quickly. They spread like weeds. What they do is they take over the landscape. And so they crowd out all the other trees, they crowd out the native grasslands, and they create habitat for different types of animals, which is always nice, except if those animals are not native to the area. So those trees spread quickly, grow fast, and they're not very robust. So they get tall, and then they split in storms and fall over. They get sick. There are a lot of diseases that prey on them. So what happens is they take over an area, kill off everything else, and then they die. And then you have just bare open areas. So by planting trees that are better suited for this area of the country, and in a variety, you spread them out and don't have just one type of tree in one area, you get a much more robust environment, a much stronger ecosystem. So it's interesting. Again, I didn't know any of this stuff, but if you go on our website, we do have the preferred and we don't call them prohibited, but the trees we recommend, trees we recommend you don't plant. We have a don't plant list and a do plant list, and they're very helpful. So if you're going to do some work around a house, or if you're going to build something new in our town and you want to know what kind of trees to replace what was there with, or to add to your trees, go to our website. And then you can take that list with you to a home center, one of our local nurseries or anything like that. They'll help you find the right trees and get them ordered for you. It is hard to find big trees though right now. I mean, right now the types of trees we're selling tomorrow, we went online just to get a price comparison. We can't find them anymore. They're sold out for this year, yeah. And that's nationwide. So it's very hard to find a swamp white oak right now, except very, very expensive ones. So get your trees early.
Yes, starting tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And if you're lucky, Steve Galooly will be there to say hello.
Handing them out.
Yeah.
I'll be the guy with the cup of coffee and the work gloves, while the people really work hard are handing out the trees. Okay. But yeah, so come on over. 40
Tell us.
Churchill Avenue.
Say that again.
40 Churchill Avenue, 10 o'clock tomorrow. That's where we'll be handing out the trees. Please register in advance, though. We don't want, if you show up, we may not have any trees left, so we just want to know in advance that you're coming.
What's the website?
It's franklintownshipnj.org/shade tree, I think. Just go to the website, the homepage under commissions. There's a link to the shade tree page, and it has everything there. By the way, just a shout out to the Franklin IT department. They do a great job with that website and keeping it working, and all the strange emails they get from me asking them to post things. So, and you'll also see our brochure on there. I don't know if Bill can see that, but anyway, there's our trees. That's what they look like.
Wow.
So lovely, big, beautiful
really
trees.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. See. everyone at home.
I better register
Feels
fast.
like I can't zoom in for that. But anyway, trust us,
No,
they're
this
beautiful
is very-
trees.
This is very exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool stuff,
Yeah.
and it's a part of the community, as you said. When people come to Franklin, one of the things they always remark is how beautiful and green the town is, and that's not by accident. We work really, really hard to add trees. For example, in Middlebush Park, when they first developed the park, a lot of the trees that went in there were funded by the Shade Tree Commission. And a lot of the parks, we're putting some new trees in Naaman Williams Park. Hopefully this year, we're going to put some new trees in. Well, I call it Quarry Park off of JFK Boulevard, but Inman Park over there. There's some trees that passed away over the last couple of years. We had some droughts that killed a few trees. We're going to get some trees in down by the ball fields, a little more shade for the people down there playing games. So that's what we think about all the time. And it's the challenge is not just getting the trees in the ground, it's then taking care of them for their first couple of years to keep them going. And there's a lot of work by the DPW. And again, big shout out to those guys, Connor and the team over at the DPW. They work really hard to take care of the trees in town. And they are true professionals. They are fully trained and certified tree care experts. They're really good.
One more care question. In addition to the watering, is there food that's recommended, and how frequently? What's the composition of the best food? And I would imagine it differs from shade tree to shade tree.
That's interesting because, if you go to a home store or a home center, they sell tree fertilizer and tree food. And they come in little stakes you put in the ground around your trees. In none of the materials I've ever seen from the U.S. Forest Service or from our suppliers of the trees, none of them have told us that we need to fertilize specifically or feed the trees. So it's interesting. I don't know if it hurts them. It probably doesn't, but it doesn't seem to be necessary. As long as the tree has good contact with the soil, a really good hole to be in, and the roots are free, they do fine.
Wow. Well,
There you go.
phew.
More about trees. It's Arbor Day.
Oh
This
my
is-
gosh. Well,
what
it's
did you
Arbor
think?
Day. It's totally
What did
appropriate,
you think you're
Franklin.
gonna learn on Arbor Day?
Arbor Day, but we're learning from one of the
And it's
best.
not just Arbor Day. It is officially Arbor Day by township proclamation. The council, mayor, and our council member Jim Vassanello, he's our advisor to the Shade Tree Commission, passed a proclamation on Tuesday that today is officially Arbor Day 2024 in Franklin Township.
Do you want to read that officialdom? You don't have to read the whole thing because I know it's pages
It is
long.
long. I
But
will
if
read
you
I'll
read
the
the
beginning of
salient, yes, that it's happening, who's getting it, and the actual proclamation.
There you go. Yeah. So here's the proclamation. It was voted on and adopted by the council on Tuesday night, and it says that whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed in 1872 with the planting of over 1 million trees in the United States. It is a holiday. Yeah. So it's celebrated every year in April. Let's see, the proclamation goes on to say some of the benefits of trees, that they're renewable sources of paper and wood, they control erosion, add oxygen to the atmosphere, enhance property values, and the economic areas of our town, and they're a source of joy and spiritual renewal. So the township has recognized the value of trees by creating the Shade Tree Commission. In a 2016 proclamation, the township adopted a tree canopy goal of over 42%, and we've been a proud Tree City USA community for 22 years in a row now, it's a lot of work that the commissions do to get those approvals.
And that's an honor.
It is a big honor. You'll see the trees, you'll see those signs when you come into town. If you're stuck in traffic on Landing Lane, you'll see the little Tree City sign over on the side. Same coming off of 287 and on Route 27. So, therefore, Councilman Vassanella and Mayor Kramer, on behalf of the Franklin Township Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 26th as Arbor Day 2024. And they urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees. There you go.
Well, how lovely. How lovely.
And the
Keep
proclamation's on the council website with the notes from the meeting on Tuesday.
everything you ever wanted to know about the proclamation, the council, and its support of a very important committee in Franklin Township, and to keep Franklin green.
And make it greener.
Yes,
Keep-
exactly.
So
Exactly.
come on out. We do have 2 openings on the Shade Tree Commission. It's a volunteer commission. It's actually a lot of fun. We meet once a month on the 4th Thursday of the month. We skip the last Thursday of the year, so you get the holiday break. So only 11 meetings a year. What we do is advise the town on what we think we should do around acquiring trees, where to put them, partnering with the DPW, and doing education. So we'll be at I think it's May 18th. Forgive me, Mr. Brundage, at the high school. We'll be at the Green event at the high school on May 18th, giving out information about the Shade Tree Commission and tree preservation in the town. We'll be doing some more Arbor Day stuff, and then we're going to give a report to the council this year again with our progress on planting trees. So we're hoping to increase the number of trees we plant every year.
Wow, that's very, very lofty. Pun also unintended. Now, tomorrow, somebody has been so inspired by everything that you've said today and comes over and says, Mr. Galooly, I would really like to join the Shade Tree Commission. Can that person do so right then and there?
Well, you have to fill out some forms, but yes, you can. So you go to the
You'll
town
have the
website.
forms?
We'll give them all the forms.
Okay.
They'll fill it out. The township has to put you in their volunteer system, and then you're a member of the commission.
All right.
You're good to go. And you get all the benefits of being a Shade Tree Commission member, including the right to help out with events like today.
Well, and there we have it. Spoken by Mr. Tree himself,
That's right.
Mr. Steve Galooly, who wears several hats in our community. You will see him emceeing our Memorial Day event.
Memorial Day, behind the trees. Yes.
Behind and in amongst
In
the
amongst
trees.
The shade trees.
Yes, so it's Franklin is very diverse on so many levels, and we're proud to add green to the many, many colors that make up Franklin.
Oh, I like that. Well done. And I think they're working on the lights, but we usually have the gazebo turn green. So we'll see if Safi can do that for us too.
I think I do see it right as we speak.
There you go.
Look at that. Gazebo is also green.
So welcome to
Well-
Franklin, take care of the trees. And if you do, one last public service announcement for the town. If you're not sure if a tree near your property is sick or not, you can call the DPW and one of the tree experts will come out and take a look for you. Before you cut down a tree, please call the DPW if it's on the street in front of your house or along the side of your property that might border township property. If you're not sure, please call the DPW. They'll come right out, they'll help you out, make sure that they know who the tree is. The worst thing you want to do is cut down one of the town's
healthy
trees
tree.
because then we have to replace them and it gets very, very complicated. So please don't cut them down unless you know for sure that they're sick and dying or it's your tree.
It sounds like a philodendron might be a better choice.
Yes, plant something small.
Well, Steve, it's always such a treasure to speak with you.
It's always good to see you, PJ.
Yeah, because
Plant a tree.
you're so knowledgeable.
I know you're going to be there tomorrow handing out trees, so come on down.
I'm going to be there if you entrust me to hand out a few and hand them out, not into my car necessarily.
Exactly. We'll give you a shovel. We'll get you to work.
Okay. Well, there you have it, Franklin. It is Arbor Day, and it is no longer 'twas the night before. Today is the 'twas.
That's
Today is the is. Or do we see twiz? Twiz. Anyway, there you have it. Steve Galooly, thank you so much.
Thank you, PJ. Always good to see you.
Yes.
And Bill behind the camera.
Happy Arbor Day, Franklin.
Happy Arbor Day.
We'll be back.